Meeting is now called to order. Roll call, Mr. Shapiro.
We are just missing Mrs. Nelson Williams, but I understand she is on her way.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we have our CCS mission statement, and that is that Carmel Clay Schools will provide opportunities for all students to realize their potential in an ever-changing world. And next up, we have public comment. And typically, we have two groups of speakers if more than, if a line of people have signed up, but we only have someone in group one this evening, and that is CCS students, parents, employees, and Carmel residents. And again, we only have one speaker, so that person will, as soon as I say your name, you can come up to the podium. As a reminder, participants must be recognized by the presiding officer and must preface their comments by an announcement of their name. Speakers may not yield their time to other speakers. Comments may not reference specific corporation employees, patrons, or students. Comments shall be directed to the board, and no person may address or question individual board members. The school board will not act on or respond to questions or comments made during public comment, but will take them under advisement. So this evening for public comment, we have Kirsten Kowalewski. And come on up, and then you will see, you will have your time, and you'll see the green light for your, when you still have minutes left to speak.
Hi, I'm Kirsten Kowalewski. I am a former Carmel High School student, and I have two children who are also Carmel High School alums. And I came tonight because I saw on the consent agenda that there are donations that are going to be voted on. And one of those is the National Christian Foundation. I do not know a lot about them, but I looked at them, and they are an evangelical organization that promotes Christian ministry and have in the past given to groups that the Southern Poverty Law Center qualifies as hate groups against LGBTQ students and individuals. So when you vote tonight on whether to accept the donations, I hope you'll take that into account. Thanks.
Thank you. Next on our agenda, we have our consent items, and those tonight include the personnel report, claims, payroll, gift applications, and the minutes from the October 14th workshop session, October 21st executive session, and October 27th, 2025 regular session board meetings. As a reminder, for the consent portion of our meeting agenda, that refers to where we put items together, they're grouped together for efficiency. These are the business items of why we have our meetings. And again, for this particular meeting, they are the personnel report, claims, payroll, gifts, and minutes from several of our meetings. Do I have a motion to approve all items on the consent agenda?
I move to approve all items on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on these consent items?
Can I just make a quick point? Just doing a little bit of quick research. That gift that was referenced, it does look like that organization does also operate donor-advised funds, which are not completely uncommon. So I don't know anything about this specific gift, but it could just be somebody's qualified charitable deduction. It may or may not be the case, but I just thought that was worth pointing out.
Good point.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. I almost called you Your Honor. I forgot where I was. Uh, I just wanted to point out, it's my understanding that, gifts to the school district aren't an endorsement by the school district to any particular organization. These appear to be unrestricted funds that the high school can use for any purpose. And, I know Andy and Becky White, and they're lovely folks. So I think I appreciate knowing that, but I think that it isn't. I just wanted to note that I don't think it's for any particular purpose related to that organization. It is merely a donation for the school to use as it sees fit.
Thank you.
And based upon what's been shared on the consent agenda, I can confirm that as well.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you all for that. We will now take a vote then. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. At this time, I would like a motion to suspend this regular board meeting in order to open a public hearing for the additional appropriation of funds for the Education Fund, the Operations Fund, and the Debt Service Fund. May I have a motion to suspend the regular board meeting in order to open a public hearing?
I move to suspend the regular board meeting so that we may have a public hearing on the additional appropriation.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. So per Board Policy 0167.3, when a public hearing is required by federal or state statute, the same rules followed during public comment apply during the public hearing, with the following exceptions. You do not have to register in advance to be able to speak on this topic of the public hearing. Mr. McMichael, before we have public comments, do you want to offer any information to the public?
Just briefly, I'd note that this is somewhat of a common practice. Our budgets are built 18 months ago, and a number of things changed. For example, as the board's aware, after the budgets were approved, for example, in the education fund, textbook expenses are now included in the textbook rental. We receive money for it. So, and a reminder that additional appropriation is essentially authority to spend money that we already have. And so this, for the most part, is reflecting changes since the time we built the budget.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to offer members of the public an opportunity to make comments regarding these plans. Since there are no comments from the public, may I have a motion to close this public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And now we are resuming our regular board meeting. Moving on to our action items. And our first action item is 5.1, which is to adopt the resolution on the additional appropriation of funds for the Education Fund, the Operations Fund, and the Debt Service Fund. Mr. McMichael, back to you.
Yes, this is the action that the board would take to approve the additional appropriations. And after the board approves it, then we send it to the state because it finally has to be approved by the state. And to the extent we have sufficient revenue to support it, then they will approve it.
Thank you. Yes, so kind of following those rules of the law as previously.
That's right.
We're having this second hearing, and then we're working on this as an action item. So at this time, may I have a motion to approve the adoption of action item 5.1, which is the resolution on the additional appropriation of funds for the Education Fund, the Operations Fund, and the Debt Service Fund.
I move that we approve action item 5.1 to adopt the resolution of the additional appropriation of funds for the Education, Operations, and Debt Service Funds.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor of the adoption of action item 5.1 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Our next action item is adoption of policy 7510, which is the use of school facilities, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Dudley.
Thank you. So this evening, we are recommending that you approve the changes to policy 7510, use of school facilities. And as we discussed in the last regular board meeting, the changes really focus around outside entities and the ability to charge rent to outside entities that do not have a structure in Carmel.
Thank you. May I have a motion to adopt the recommended changes to policy 7510, use of school facilities?
Madam President, I move to adopt the changes to the language of policy 7510, use of school facilities.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on this change, the changes to this policy?
I just wanted to reiterate that the purpose, as we discussed for the policy and the changes it relates to those outside of our community, is they don't contribute to the tax base, which helps pay for our school facilities. Therefore, it makes sense to have different standards for their use.
Thank you for that. Any other discussion? All right, thank you. We will now take a vote. All in favor of adopting the recommended changes to policy 7510, use of school facilities, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Our next action item is 5.3, and that is the 2026 school board meeting dates. Are we going to have those on the board or no? No? Okay. So part of this for these changes is we are going to be changing our meetings to Wednesdays beginning in 2026. And we talked about this at our last board meeting, both Dr. Ostrike and I, that for many reasons, I think it's going to be a better day of the week for a lot of us. And especially what we run up to as board members is when we get the information packet Wednesday evenings, and then the weekend is soon there isn't a lot of time for answering our questions when it comes, right up to Monday evening. So this gives us a chance to have a little bit more weekday time to have those discussions. And then as we continue discussing, I know Colleen's going to get that up on the board. Do we have, let's see, there it is. Okay. May I have a motion to approve the recommended 2026 school board meeting dates?
I move to approve the 2026 school board meeting dates.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. And then now any discussion on these dates and for next year?
Just some comments. Indiana state law requires that a school board member be on the city's redevelopment commission, in which I'm a member of, and we meet on the third Wednesday of every month without question. I am a non-voting member, or the school board member is a non-voting member, so we don't have much influence, but we are there to ask questions and share information that might be relevant to the school board and the administration. There was 4 collisions or conflicting dates, and now we've been able to move the one in December. I thank you for that. We have a problem on the April 15th date, conflict there, October 21st and November 18th. So there's 3 dates, so that would be 25% of the meetings I would not be present during the live meeting. I am working with the CRC to see if we can do something on their end. I don't think that will happen. And we had talked about moving to daytimes, and then just suddenly, last week it was brought up to maybe stay with our same, so I don't know where it's going to end up. The worst case is I will not attend 3 of the meetings in next year, but I am able to watch the meetings offline and comment after those meetings, and I think there will be a real impact. But we tried, and I appreciate the administration being able to move one of those dates. So that's a big improvement for us.
When we thank you for bringing that to our attention, it was a little bit of a change at the last minute. And I know, I would assume like any boards, having been on the Parks Board and this board, that there's an agenda that's received ahead of time too, that, you know, hopefully if you had questions, you could submit those to them, to even have to someone, you know, ask that in the meeting for you.
And I just want to note for the record, I've had similar issues sometimes with our meetings with CEF board and other things. So I sympathize, and we'll see how it goes, I guess, this coming year and go from there.
Yeah, yes, yeah. And so Mr. Brown alluded to the fact that if you're looking at this, the schedule so far says Wednesday, December 16th. And so I believe one of the discussions was to potentially move, you alluded to moving that meeting to Wednesday, December 9th instead. So I don't know if that was something else that we wanted to.
So I was going to make a comment, and then I was going to make a motion. So the comment is, I understand the conflict, and I also appreciate it. I sit on a separate board that has nothing to do with the school district, and their meetings are on Wednesdays. So that may present a conflict for me, and whether or not I'm able to fulfill that board service. But so be it. You know, this is going to have to take, for me, this will have to take priority. And I'll have to figure out a way to still try and make a contribution to that other board however I can. But because of the opportunity that exists, I'd like to make a motion to amend this schedule and change the Wednesday, December 16th date to Wednesday, December 9th.
Okay, do I have a second for that motion?
I second that motion.
Okay, any discussion? And again, what we're discussing, and then we'll take a vote on, is simply this amendment, you know, including the amendment of moving that Wednesday, December 16th meeting to December 9th. Any further discussion? No? Okay, we'll take a vote on that. And again, what we're voting on is a motion to amend to move the Wednesday, December 16th meeting to Wednesday, December 9th. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. So now back to the original motion, and then that, when I read the whole thing, it will be amended to add that. Do we have any further discussion on the original motion? Okay, so what we'll do now is take a vote, and so all in favor of approving the 2026 school board meeting dates with the amendment of changing the December 16th meeting to Wednesday, December 9th, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Our next action item is 5.4, and that is the bid award for the Carmel High School scoreboard. Mr. McMichael.
Thank you. This is a part of the stadium renovation project, which is funded from our 2024 lease rental bond, and we bid this separate from the major part of the project because we wanted to receive bids directly from the supplier of this. For, you know, we will receive better pricing than if we had gone through like a general contractor who would buy it from them, then mark it up. So that's why it's a separate bid award.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion to approve? This is action item 5.4, which is the bid award for the Carmel High School scoreboard.
I move to approve the bid award for the Carmel High School scoreboard.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on this action item?
Just out of curiosity, Mr. McMichael, is there always such a wide disparity in bids? I mean, this was fairly remarkable, some of the price differential here.
Sometimes there can be, yes. In this case, there was a different manufacturer, and in the end, we felt it was in the interest of the school corporation to go with the manufacturer that we're recommending. They're a little more advanced in terms of the capabilities. This thing, we're calling it a scoreboard, but nowadays it would be referred to as a video board. And that has a lot of implications technologically. If you're familiar with what's recently installed in the natatorium, it does a lot more than just like keep the score. And thus you can see the cost as well.
And I'll add, it's also similar to what Westfield has, Brownsburg has, both Lawrence high schools have, as well as North Central. I know there's others in the state, but having gone to a lot of football games and band competitions, those are the ones that pop into my head.
My question is, will we be able to see like video of what's on the field on the screen?
I don't know.
So what the exciting part is
uh-huh.
that our students will be manning the video board often, and then they'll be
Oh.
creating a lot of the
Content, okay.
that'll be on the video board. So I don't know that we can answer the live part at this time.
Uh-huh.
I believe they would have that capability, but I don't know. The kids will have to get practice with it and utilize it and so on and so forth. And then more than likely, we would have to take CHTV's video and might be able to do that, but they will definitely be creating the promos and intro videos, and it'll be very, very exciting.
That's really neat. Thank you for sharing that. My cousin, who's older than I am, made a career out of the AV club, for those of us that remember the audio video visual club in school, and he does that kind of work. So that's real hands-on
Yeah.
experience for our kids. So I
When you
really
talk
think that's
about
neat.
work-based learning and Polytechnic, this will be a prime example for our sports media students to be able to have a great hands-on experience with this technology.
Thanks. And I also wanted to say thank you to our finance group for putting together the bid information, all of it really in a way that's easily digestible and easy to compare and understand. I'm sure you took a lot of information and distilled it. And so I just wanted to express appreciation for that.
Thank you.
It looks like discussion is kind of finished at this point then. We will now take a vote. All in favor of approving the bid award. So action item 5.4, the bid award for the Carmel High School scoreboard, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Boy, it is an action item night. Our next action item is 5.5, and that is change orders for several different things. So I was going to see if I could get a motion to approve the change orders as a group, and as always, Mr. McMichael would explain each of those separately. But if we could group together items 5.5, the Carmel High School Polytech Edition, 5.6, Carmel High School Natatorium Addition and existing natatorium renovations, item 5.7, Carmel High Greyhound Activity Center, and item 5.8, Carmel High School 2025 classroom renovations. So at this time, if I can I have a motion to approve the change orders items 5.5, 5.6, 5.7, and 5.8 as a group?
I'd like to move to vote on the change orders 5.5, 5.6, 5.7, and 5.8 as a group.
Thank you, Ms. Wheeler. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on any of these items? I guess, or any discussion on grouping them, sorry. No? Okay, we'll take a vote. So again, what we're voting on is just the grouping part. So items 5.5 through 5.8, grouping them together so that we can consider them in one motion. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And so now, if you can, kind of as much individually or whatever you feel like you need to give that information on each item on these change orders.
Yeah, I'll speak briefly to each project. The Polytech change order totals $13,000, a little over $13,000. It's two DDEC change orders for, as we're closing out contracts, unused allowances, which you've heard before, and that's a typical process. And then there is a add change order included in there that involves some painting and so forth. We had put in conduit after the fact and it had to be painted, and so that's a part of what the general trades contract is for. The largest one here is for the natatorium, and the majority of that has to do with additional ductwork that was necessary. It was actually omitted. It should have been in the plan, but it was omitted, and it's necessary in order to take the chloramines and so forth out of the air. and so it required significant ductwork. Now, we're still responsible for the cost because had it been in the bid, we would have paid for it then. Now, you always wonder if you're paying more when it's a change order, and that's why you don't like these things, but it is our obligation to, because there is additional value added for doing that. And then the next change order has to do with the activity center, and I believe this one had to do with some fencing. Make sure it's the right one. Yeah, we had installed a 4-foot fence along a tree line where the new discus field is at, and so that's significantly a part of it, and also providing some gravel then to mow around, next to the fence. And then there was a change order for, it's actually a deduct change order for a little over $2,000, and it's an unused allowance as well. And I believe that's it.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion to approve action items 5.5, 5.6, 5.7, and 5.8?
Madam President, I move to accept change orders 5.5, 5.6, 5.7, and 5.8.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on these 4 items, action items that we're grouping together?
Yeah, just maybe more for the purposes of our newer board members, Mr. McMichaels, I know we've spoken before about a lot of these change orders. A lot of them are pretty small.
Yeah.
And I think tonight they relatively speaking, they're pretty small. And but typically they're completed by the time they get to the board. So we're approving funds that are already been spent possibly. And
Yes.
could you explain how the approval process is? For example, from the time that we recognize we need to make fix a surprise that comes up, those are normal. So it's approved by someone, I would imagine, in the administration,
Yes.
who has the authority, and then the contractor can proceed in a timely basis.
Yes.
But then it takes some time for these documents to find their way here, which, intuitively to me just seems like we're not adding value this whole step. But could you explain how that all is to work?
Yeah, what I'd suggest to you is that you have a contract, you and the contractor have entered into a contract for X amount. And so all of these are either increasing that contract or decreasing it. So really that's what you're approving, because as you noted, the work itself has already been approved and typically has already been accomplished. In that context, there are exceptions to that where we absolutely wouldn't do a change order without bringing it to you first. Typically, it would be much larger, not to minimize these, but in the context of millions of dollars worth of work, they're a small percentage. And so at the same time, Indiana law allows that for work that's $300,000 or less, that is administrative decision. Doesn't require, you could require it if you chose to, but we have not. This board has not. And so otherwise, we are doing work that may be up to $300,000 to a quote process and so forth. But when it's a change order, it's necessary for the board to approve the increase or decrease in the contract, because it takes both parties to change the amount. So that's kind of the background. And from a practical standpoint, given if we were to stop a project, sometimes we could talk about 70 contractors saying you need to go home until we get this approved. And oftentimes it's, not always, but many times it's something like, maybe you can't put tile in the pool because there's cracked tile, and so or you can't put water in it until you repair the tile. So the practical issue of stopping the project in many cases, not always, but in many cases, prior to getting approval just wouldn't work very well. And now there are exceptions, as I said, but if they're, I'm going to say if they're under $300,000, we treat it much like we would a quote. If it were separate from this, we would just do it as a routine administratively. And so, for example, when we improve the finishes in the lobby area for the pool, or the natatorium, the original pool. That was far less. It was not insignificant, but it was far less than $300,000. So that was something we could have said, let's get approval for it, and then, and we could have waited because it wasn't like connected to something else. But we have not done that, again, because we start from the assumption that if we have authority to do up to 300,000, it's not a matter of how much the cost is, and you're approving the cost. But in this case, as I said, you're approving changing the contract amount, if that helps.
Yeah, I mean, when I hear you describe it, it makes sense, but when I think back
Yes.
logically, we're approving funds that have already been spent, were
Yes.
approved and spent, and when I look at it from the value, we're like, what if we all voted to not approve it? Not that that's likely,
Yeah,
but
well,
I think-
no, and we recognize that as well, but the issue then is that the contractor would have absolutely be within their right to have a reasonable expectation. If your administrator approved them doing this work, then they do in fact represent you, and I believe you would have a legal obligation to. They have reason. It's reasonable for them to accept that approval as having the authority to make that approval. And so, push come to shove, and the fact that the work was done, you most likely would be told you have to pay them. And again, I know you're not giving as an example because it's something that's likely to happen. But, and as I said, the board, the 300,000 is a state law, but you could say, well, in Carmel we wanted 100,000 or 150. It used to be 150 for years, but you haven't chosen to do that. But you could. But otherwise, we're operating in that case, under the statute as far as the dollar amount. As I said, if we had a much larger change order, something really unforeseen is going to be $1 million or something, and well, we for sure would be discussing that before we gave authorization to do it.
When I look at the change order document that outlines the details of
Yes.
the contract, the initial amount, the changes to date, and new changes
Right.
and all that, there's not a signature block for the board. So when I look at it, it looks like the contract's already been approved, and as far as the general contractor is concerned, they're done. So
Yes, because when these are AIA architectural national forms that are used, and so when the board approves a bid, for example, then the administration does sign the contract as opposed to the board acting on your behalf. There's other examples where administration will do that, representing the board once the board has acted. So, in effect, we are signing on your behalf as a board. But ultimately, the contract's between the school corporation, which ultimately gets to the board, and the contractor.
If I can ask the board members, do you have an interest or see value in us approving these things that the administration already has approval powers for?
I'm not an AIA contract expert, although I've worked with them from time to time. I believe the standard language is everything is subject to board approval. You have certain authority, but that's also part of the contract. So I understand that from a forms perspective, and those change order forms are also part of our contract, are the way they are because they're governed by the overall contract, which is governed by the building corporation's authority as well as our board authority. I am open to other ways of doing it. And I think maybe we should talk about that. But to me, what is important here is that we employ an entire group of people who are involved in these projects on a daily basis. They know what's going on. They know what needs to be changed and what doesn't, what might be a reasonable request or what they might want to push back on or not do or bring to us. And I trust their judgment in that regard. And I think that's why they have the authority that they do. I know it might seem strange, but it is the state law process that every school district, public school district goes through. in our state. It's just the way that it's done. And I think it's more of a transparency thing than anything else about the changes that we're making to the contract and how we're using public funds.
Yeah, just when I see us approving a credit for $12,000, I'm like, there's probably something else we could spend our time and you guys spend your time on differently. So maybe it needs some,
And that's what I think I hear you saying, maybe it wasn't super clear, but that's what I hear you saying is that you're more of questioning, do you think that we need, the efficiency of the process, as John just said, do we need to have these, if they're small amounts, we trust,
Right.
the administration, that's the reason, that, we aren't financial experts and we are by no means construction experts, maybe one of us down here, but,
No.
no, but, but if they're small amounts enough, what you are kind of getting to the point is that you're saying, do we need to approve those in a meeting and take the time to do it? Is that
And
what
I
you're trying to say?
completely- Yeah, and just to be clear, I completely agree, Greg, that might not be a great use of our time. I don't know if there are other school district policies that maybe we could take a look at and pursue that, because I was trying to find some and I didn't, and I know ISBA might have some resources that are not as easy or easier to put your hands on.
Yeah,
So.
and to be clear, they would still be part of a consent agenda or some
It could be a
area.
consent agenda
Yeah.
for sure, but as I said, my focus has always been that you're approving the change to the contract. And I don't know that you could choose to, I would believe that in all these documents, it may not be optional that you could have, give that authority to your administration. What you can do is you can put them on a consent agenda and essentially it's real close to doing the same thing, because unless you choose
Yes.
to talk about it, there's
No, I agree. I
it's
think we
just
still
on-
have to have it on, and we could still
You
choose
have to
to
take
say, Mr.
action.
McMichael, can you comment? But maybe it wouldn't take as much of our time. I
or-
think is
or
what
not
Mr.
at-
Brown is trying
Or
to
not
say.
at all. I mean,
Or-
it's up
yeah.
to, it would be up to the board, but it's like any other consent agenda. On a consent agenda, those are action items that you're choosing to group,
Yes.
but also choosing to not discuss. But if any one board member wants to discuss, they're entitled to have it
We
taken
can,
up.
or sometimes when we hire in administration, sometimes Dr. Ostrike will say, can I say a word? They're here in the
Exactly.
audience, or exactly, there's no reason we can't have, I always ask
Right.
for a discussion.
You always have the
right?
option to treat it like any
Right.
other action item, but you also would have the option to not discuss it, like you don't typically discuss the payroll report, for example. But you could, if you
right.
wanted.
So if, in this case, if these 3 or 4 items, we would see them on the consent agenda, and if none of us had issue or wanted to discuss it, just leave it there and let it
Right.
go. But if there was one that sounded like we wanted to discuss, we could pull it out, and they would just give us, I'm trying to just look for ways to
Right.
carve more time out to focus more on reports and other student outcome measures
Yeah.
and things of that nature.
I think I would recommend consideration of using the consent agenda for that purpose. As I said, in any number of cases, if there's not a board member that has a question, because
Right.
you do receive the written information, and
Yes.
so if you don't have a question, then it just gets approved. If you do have a question, as I said, it doesn't take a majority, it takes one person, and you're entitled to discuss it if you
Yes.
want to.
Mr. Shapiro, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to share, because I think Greg was asking for opinions. I agree. I mean, I think certainly if we can become more efficient in the business of the board so that we can engage more in discussion on,
Yeah.
around topics of interest, workshop items, student outcomes, focused on those type of items, we should absolutely do that. I do want to ensure, obviously, that we're following our responsibilities as a board. And so if we are obligated to be approving things, then certainly we can put that in as part of the consent. And I also want to make sure that, I think there's a delicate balance, though, in also making sure that whomever is consuming these meetings, whether that be live in the audience, online, live, or they go back and watch on fast forward or in real time, that they're able to see how their tax dollars are being used, right? And so, yes, a lot of this is credit. Yes, this is dollars that have already been spent, but that's the responsibility that we as a board hold, is to be good stewards of those dollars. And so I get what you're saying, and I agree, like, and in this case, using tonight as the example, in the scheme of things, we're not talking about tremendous amounts of dollars, but these are our tax dollars. And so I just want to make sure that we're being responsible to the community in towing that line, and that we're not just saying, okay, well, we're just going to throw it away. I mean, I am not a lawyer. I am not a construction expert. I am the son of a lawyer, but that does not give me any qualification in the legal world. So, you know, I do think putting it in the consent is the easy way to go. It certainly makes it efficient. And to the point that Mr. McMichael made, should we see anything in the material that say, hey, I'm not so sure about this, it allows us to take it out in question. And we've done that with other consent items, and we can certainly do that moving forward. And I think it gives anybody what they need in terms of efficiency and the ability to question if we need to.
If you think about the claims report that you approve every 2 weeks, that's an example where all of those have been delivered and paid for, you know, whatever. It may not be paid for, but they've been received and you have an obligation to pay them. Something very similar. And of course, over the year, they can add up to millions of dollars, everything from utility bills to whatever it is. But you've approved a budget. And so you've given the authorization to buy, you know, PE supplies or whatever it is. And likewise here, you have approved a bond issue. And as you oftentimes ask appropriately, it's like, I'm assuming we have the money to pay for it. So the answer is yes. And thus we have the ability to and the wherewithal to pay, when we're making a recommendation to pay this, we know that we have the funds to pay it. And so as I think about it, it's very similar to the claims process.
No, I agree. It's already part of something that we've
And
already
sometimes you'll pull a
approved.
claim off and say, I just have a particular question about this claim.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, since we changed this year to posting the claims with the agenda publicly in advance of the meeting, I'm particularly comfortable with the consent agenda approach that we started posting the claims and the change orders before our meetings, so that if somebody wanted to contact the superintendent or Mr. McMichael and say, hey, I have a question, or contacted one of us and said, what is this? We would have that opportunity. So I think that works well with the way we've been approaching posting these agenda documents publicly in advance.
So I'm thinking maybe the policy liaisons need to do a little digging into what we currently have, you know, before we would make any changes, to see if you guys can do that. So that is Ms. Nessa Williams and Ms. Wheeler, and let us know from there. All right, so back to our our original motion was for action items 5.5, 5.6, 5.7, and 5.8. And we had our discussion, so let's take a vote, and all in favor of approving those items signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Our next item is our discussion item, and that is the 2026 CCS legislative letter, and I'm going to hand it off to Dr. Oestreich, but I did want to let the public know how proud I am that we do this. I was part of a President's Roundtable virtual last week, and we were the only district there that said that they actually send a letter. And again, this isn't demands. You know, this is a letter of partnership with our legislators. You know, telling them some things maybe could they consider doing legislation on. And so I think it's really important that we're doing this important work.
Well, good evening, President Coquet, members of the board. President Coquet took a little bit of my thunder in the introduction there, but yeah, we have an annual practice of crafting a legislative letter, and President Coquet and I did that to present to the board this evening. Our goal does remain clear. We want to partner with our legislators and our representatives as they are working through different items that impact public education and Carmel Clay schools. We want to be a resource to them. I personally meet with our legislators. They have my cell phone number if they're in session and they want to run a question by me and how that'll impact Carmel Clay schools. I remain open, President Coquet remains open to partnering with our legislators, so I'm very excited about that. We do have 5 different areas in our legislative letter that we wanted to share tonight with you. These areas are based upon the needs of Carmel Clay schools, but they're also created based upon our work with the Indiana School Boards Association and the work President Coquet has been doing, and also with the legislative priorities of the Indiana Association of Public School Superintendents. And I attended their initial meeting at our annual fall meeting of ISBA and IAPSS. And so I wanted to share those areas. I'm not going to go through every bullet as that is listed and posted for the public to take a look at, but one was to continue to ensure adequate funding for public schools to improve student outcomes. Number 2, support and elevate the education profession. Number 3, provide regulatory relief to reduce administrative burden. Number 4, maintain local governance and accountability standards. And then number 5, local revenue tools and fair fiscal policy. And so we look forward to providing this information. One thing we did different, President Coquet and I did differently this year, is previous letters were wonderful, but it was very heavy in the narrative. So we took that and we have more of a bulleted approach so that when I sit down with the legislator, I can say, okay, let's look at this section. Here's our 3 or 4 main bullets that we're interested in discussing and having those discussions. And so with that, I'd be happy to have any discussion on this draft. It is a draft. We would, with your feedback, we would work on it a little bit more, bring it back to you in December for a formal approval, and then once it's approved, we will, with Mrs. Novus's assistance, we would send it to our legislators as well as the main players in the state Senate and the House of Representatives in the state of Indiana. President Coquet.
Anyone on the board have any discussion or any comments so far? Why don't we all work our way from the end? Chris, did you have anything?
Yeah, I really like the bulleted approach. I think it presumes that our legislators have a great deal of knowledge already about these issues, and it gets to the point. So I appreciate that very much. I also appreciate the emphasis on really fairness and accountability. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown?
Yeah, just one comment on the local revenue tools and fair fiscal policy item. There's one that says revising TIF statutes from using the word may to the word shall. When we share incremental assessed values, and I'm on the CRC, and there's a lot of talk about TIF, and that's what powers the redevelopment in the city. So this is my first knowledge seeing the letter, and I appreciate seeing that I didn't know we had some statutes that had the word may instead of the word shall. My understanding was that all our TIF districts, all our TIF activity, they're designed to fund the referendums, which in our case is 2, of course, the safety and the operations refund or fund referendum. So this would imply that there's some cases where we might have some TIF districts that aren't generating referendum taxes based on someone's ability to use the word that, we may generate TIF. That's how I read this. So I don't know if we know anything more than that.
I don't, with just that sentence. When I read the sentence, I'm reading it differently than you, and because there is approval beginning in 2008 that we share operation funds and other funds with a charter school, for example. That's not a major issue for us. I don't know if we even have a charter school in Carmel currently, but IPS, for example, that's a huge issue. And but that's how I took it. I'm not aware of any changes to the referendum. In fact, we early on, when we had our first referendum, the county didn't know really how to deal with it. So that's when legislation made it clear that TIF districts were not protected from referendums. And so in our case, because we have 20% of our property is in TIF districts, the AV for TIF districts is, and thus referendums, is 20% higher than for all the other funds. And so I don't believe that the language is talking about somebody arbitrarily deciding that you couldn't receive the full value of the assessed value in a TIF district. I believe it's applied to, but I don't know that for sure with just reading the one sentence. But I've not read or been aware of anything other than, there's been a lot of conversation about sharing with charter schools, but there was no mention about TIF.
Yeah, and with regards to that, it was also a legislative priority for ISBA and IAPSS, so we can dig into that one a
Right.
little bit more and come back to you at our next meeting when we bring this for approval and kind of get some more background information on that.
That'd be good. It's a brief statement, and,
Right.
I read it one way, you read it another way. I hope your way's the right way, but it's
I'm
it's
sure it is
certainly
now.
concerning, if there's some
Yes,
loophole or something that we need to
I-
take a look at. So,
because
know
all
in-
of our, pretty much all of our surrounding districts, including Carmel, have referendums, which is not as common as you might think around the rest of the state. And I meet regularly with the other CFOs that are contiguous with us, and it's never come up about, it has come up about charter schools, but it has not, there's been no mention about any change in the referendum statutes.
Okay, good.
I know there's a large paragraph on it in the, as being on the legislative committee for ISBA. I'll find that packet and get that information
Okay.
to the board.
I appreciate it.
Mhm.
Just a couple of quick comments. I also love the bullets. I think it's a great strategy for both the legislators and for their legislative assistants who do most of their prep work for them. I appreciate I think the approach is very politically neutral, which I think is a good way to go when trying to speak to public education. I would imagine these folks are included in when you say, in addition to the legislators that represent Carmel in the House and the Senate, but if they're not already included, obviously the Senate Pro Tem and the Speaker of the House, and as well as the chairs of the Senate and House Education Committees, or all the members of the Senate and House Education Committees should get this letter. So yeah, I mean, those are just my quick comments. I think everything pretty much is covered in here, and it just allows for quick reading and highlighting for them. So great work.
I want to thank the administration and Kristen for your hard work on this. Are you still the legislative liaison? Yes. Okay. For your hard work on this. I know it takes a lot of time, and Carmel is seen as a leader throughout the state, and so presenting this information in a unbiased fashion, I think is probably well received, and I do agree with my colleagues where the bullet points have a more clear vision and less narrative that can get lost. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you all. We'll keep any questions. I'm sure we can keep getting any questions from the board, and I'll try to remember to answer that part about TIF. All right, thank you, Dr. Ostrike. Next up, we have reports, and our first report is the Staff and Student Services report with Dr. Herrera.
All right, thank you, President Koke, Dr. Ostrike, and members of the board. My presentation tonight is focusing on how we invest in our employees and specifically tying that to the strategic plan and looking at employee engagement and effectiveness. So the strategic goal I am focusing on is investing in our people. So we're looking specifically at how we attract, support, and retain highly qualified staff. And then the key initiatives I focused on, let me hide this really quick. The key initiatives I focused on is conducting a comprehensive review of staff benefits and then monitoring employee satisfaction and improving retention through feedback. And then we will continue to measure the performance by determining the effectiveness of staff retention and turnover rates, and then looking at the feedback that we get from employee interviews. So specifically looking at health and wellness services provided to our employees, if an employee has a physical or emotional concern, we want to make sure they get the care they need so that they can be the best they can be while they're at work. You have to be on our medical plan to access the Wellness Center, but as you know, our Wellness Center is located across from the high school and is fully staffed by Ascension employees. At the Wellness Center, you can receive virtually any type of care you would normally receive at your personal doctor's office. Our data shows that our sickest employees have better outcomes when they are serviced through the Wellness Center because we focus on everything from preventative care to chronic disease management and everything in between. The care provided to patients at the Wellness Center is at no cost to the employee and often includes medications. We feel like this is super important because it minimizes barriers to seeking care. And at the Wellness Center, we also have 4 mental health counselors and a registered nurse employed by United Healthcare. Oh. Although we have 4 mental health counselors through the Wellness Center, we also find it very important that we provide mental health services for all employees. So we have a partnership with First Stop Health. This is a virtual option for all employees. And it is really important for employees, spouses, and children have access to this. A lot of times you'll see that having a virtual option is important to families because they can do that for the comfort of their own home, or perhaps you have a child that's away at college, and so you're able to supply them with access to have mental health services. We also have the Employee Assistance Plan, which is an in-person mental health services. And one thing I will mention is that our administrators and our supervisors just do a tremendous job. So if they have someone who reaches out to them and they're just expressing concern or that they need resources, we make sure that everyone understands that we have First Stop Health and the Employee Assistance Plan available to them so that they can communicate that. We also have telemedicine, which provides 24/7 virtual care. So you wake up and you're not feeling well and it's the weekend or it's the holiday, you don't have access to your doctor, maybe your child's sick. You can call in, speak with a physician, and they will call in prescriptions over the phone for you. We offer free flu vaccines to all of our employees, and then there are additional vaccines available within our wellness center as well. Our physical therapy is available when you are referred from our wellness center or from one of our partnerships at Hendricks Regional Health through our orthopedic surgery. One thing I will mention is that if you're receiving PT care, it is with a doctorate level physical therapist and you have a full 1-hour session each time. The great thing about our physical therapy is that you are not limited to a restricted number of appointments. They will see you and continue seeing you for as long as you need. We also have a partnership with 2 programs that we consider centers of excellence. The first one being Hendricks Regional Health for orthopedic surgery. We've partnered with them for the last 3 years, and I will tell you that they are the #1 in Central Indiana based on outcomes and patient satisfaction. Since we've rolled out the program, we've had a total of 115 employees needing surgery. 97 of those employees chose Hendricks, and I will tell you we've had 0 complaints. Everyone is completely satisfied with the results and the outcomes of surgery. Along with that, we offer this partnership free of charge to our employees, so there is no cost that they have to bear. And along with that, we provide a $500 gift card to the employee and a stipend between $500 and $1,500, depending on the surgery they receive. And again, that comes back to we want to be able to focus on the patient's recovery, on our employee recovering and getting back to work. We also have a partnership with Ascension St. Vincent Health Hospital, which we established in January 2024. Again, just as an example of how important these programs are to our employees, we recently had an employee who had a heart attack. We were able to connect her with our heart care specialist, and she was able to receive care free of cost, and will continue to receive follow-up care as part of that. So again, it's about breaking down barriers and for them to have life-changing support that they need so that they can continue to seek those services. I'm very proud of our comprehensive work injury program. When there is an injury, our supervisors are trained to assist the employee with calling the nurse triage line. that allows them to speak to a registered nurse, and they receive care from start to finish from that triage line. We make sure that our employees are cared for, and we partner with one of the best injury teams, which is JWF Specialty, to make sure our staff does receive the best care in those situations. Next, talking about our fitness club, we really do collaborate. Our fitness club collaborates with our wellness center, collaborates with PT, and that is to make sure that we are providing employees with a healthier lifestyle. And so our goal is to help our employees make better choices and be part of a community so they can make transformative changes. At the fitness club, you'll see we have group fitness classes, personal training. We have team CCS races, which sometimes are free or at a discount. We have a total of 17 instructors and 6 personal trainers. All of our employees and retirees have access to our fitness center for a small fee, and they participate in everything from strength training, yoga, hip hop, cycling, and much more. But to put all this into perspective, I have a short video I would like for you to watch.
We opened our wellness center in 2013, so we've been doing this for a while. We've been expanding ever since then. We provide every service that we feel will assist somebody in maintaining and gaining a healthy lifestyle. And in addition to the wellness center proper, we have a fitness center right next door, which provides opportunity for about 40 fitness classes. And so we provide very inexpensive membership.
Right now we have 4 therapists on staff. This is honestly a brilliant program because we're able to treat patients for as long as they need to be treated to meet their goals. Even when patients graduate, they're always free to reach out to us via email. They can always stop into the clinic if they just have questions, because we're always here to help them in any way, shape, or form that we can.
I truly believe that this wellness center is going to impact the city in a way that none of us really realized when we first started out. The teachers are a large backbone in this community, and as they begin to understand how to be healthy from a lifestyle standpoint, they organically give that to the kids. The more they understand public health and how to be healthy from a lifestyle standpoint, it just organically goes to the community.
I'm one of the mental health therapists here, so I see all clients between students, teachers, spouses, family. The cool thing about this clinic is that we're really here for them. We see you more than just an individual. You're an individual as a sum of all your different parts. And for us to be integrated within the community, we see all of that.
I love the collaboration that we have within this practice. We really cater to providing wellness to the patient, everything down to the hours that we provide. If we start to see a common request or concern, we make sure to research, develop referral patterns so that those patients are supported. If they're not already using the other departments within this wellness center, I try to make sure that they know what's available that makes the most sense for them. Not only can I help with the medical side of things, but there's so much overlap with mental health, dietetics, exercise that all help treat the same conditions that I treat. So having that support around me only gives the patient more options to succeed.
It is a special team of people, and I do think that's key. You've got some key people that have made the decisions about the wellness center. They foster that philosophy. We're all on the same page, and it does take a special team to carry out the care. But when you've got leaders that have such high standards, it's easy. They have a vision, and we're carrying it out.
It's not how long you live, but it's how well you live. And this is the most positive employee relations initiative I've ever been involved with.
And so we talked about the physical and mental well-being that we support our employees on, but we also want to talk about the financial well-being of our employees. We have a partnership with Your Money Line, and all employees have access to utilizing Your Money Line. You will see they provide support for everything from public service loan forgiveness to budgeting, financial preparedness, setting financial goals. So this is something that we make sure all employees understand they have access to, Along with that, sometimes we'll get a phone call and someone needs assistance with how do I plan for a wedding, or I'm merging accounts with a partner, or holiday spending, all of those life circumstances that happen. And so we always connect them with Your Money Line to talk to them about the support that they're able to provide. And then lastly is EduCare. EduCare is quality care that we have, child care that we have for our employees' children. And we currently have 2 locations. That's at Carmel Middle and Clay Middle. They, provide care for children up to 6 weeks to 5 years old. We currently have 140 children currently enrolled between both of the facilities and have already started a wait list for the 27-28 school year. So with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Herrera. This is a wonderful video, and I'm sure it's an excellent. Was this a new video or something you just put together?
No, it was recent. I did not put it together, but it was a recent video.
I mean, it must, sorry. But this would be a great recruiting tool because these benefits, I've heard from some of my friends whose children are teachers within the district, that they utilize these services. We've toured the facility. It's remarkable, and it's been improved since we were there. So thank you so much for leading up these programs, Roger. I know you put a lot of work into this, and we look forward to, I know you are contacted by other districts across the country, maybe across the world, to look at its success, and it is, we certainly all know that teachers are not paid necessarily what they're due, but these types of benefits are very helpful to their families. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Herrera. I would agree with what Jennifer had to say. I mean, certainly the additional ancillary benefit is tremendous when financial compensation for public school educators is not where it should be. Do you have any sense of what percentage of staff that are eligible for the services are taking advantage of it? Roughly?
I happen to know that. Actually, the higher risk patients, the higher their participation. So when we get to moderate to going toward high risk, it's up to about 75%. And overall, I believe it's about 65%. Realizing that many young children, dependents and so forth, they may not, whether they should or not, they may not seek services anywhere. So that drives the number down. When you look at spouses and employees, it's well over, well over 60%. As I said, over 75% for the higher risk patients.
And then are you able to put a financial value per employee on what this benefit would, the monetary value of?
We've not looked at it so much for the value for the employee, but we certainly looked at it for the value for the school district. And so usually it's like, well, what's all this cost? And the answer is the more services we provide, the more money we save. And we have an independent company that does all of our data analytics. That was one of the best things we did, because I could tell you how great it is, but she tells you because that's what she does for a living, and she has we get 70-page reports quarterly that very clearly, and it's not refutable. Diabetics, for example, it's clear that those that participate, who are the sickest staff, if they participate in a wellness center, they're on fewer drugs. There's more that that go back to being pre-diabetic or not becoming diabetic. The evidence is clear. And from a cost standpoint, over 13 years, our premium increases, not because we've shifted the cost to the employees, because anybody can do that, and then your cost goes down. But our premium increases have averaged less than 3% in those 13 years, and medical inflation has been far more, been double digits, and drugs are even more than that. So I can go on and on about this, but I will, and for a little bit. It's really important. And so we went 6 years with no change in the plan design, so we didn't shift cost to the employee, with no premium increase. In fact, one year we gained $1 million. And we weren't about to lower the premium because, you know, you can have the bad years and so forth. But it's just been an outstanding program. And more recently, as the labor market's, you know, really gotten severe, it has become a significant recruiting tool, as has the child care program. We've been doing that since '99.
Great, thank you. Certainly really helpful. I appreciate it.
Just a similar question to John, but on the financial wellness program, do you see good participation with that?
Well, it's kind of relative, but I can tell you that when student loan forgiveness came out, you know, started a couple of years ago, we had over $1 million employees that had over $1 million forgiven. And so if you're one of those employees, it was pretty important to you. And the participation as a percentage is not as high as we would like to see. But we started that right when COVID hit. So it was a challenge getting it off the ground because we couldn't, you know, go out and talk to people and so forth. We since are doing all those things, and I believe it is going up in terms of participation.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I think it's really an important one that's easily overlooked.
Yes.
With people in their earlier years of their career, that they tend to defer getting into, you know, good programs like this. So it'd be great to encourage them all to. Do we have like a training or exposure program to it that all employees can come in?
I believe when they're hired, there's an orientation that shares all of this. But I'd emphasize that all of these services are connected. So as you know, human beings are complex. So it's physical. People get the physical health. They don't always get the mental health. That might be second, but they may not seek those services as much. But then we also, the fitness center, for example, it looks like, you know, classes and all that, but part of it is social well-being. And so people meet each other. They end up, you know, becoming friends. They may go out for, you know, dinner after a class, and so there, and then the participation, like in 5Ks and so forth, we subsidize that because we know that if you help somebody else, that helps you too. And so there's a reason for all these things that aren't always apparent. The yoga classes will have the PT say, you know, if you take a yoga class and strengthen your core, you might not need to see me as much. And so, and it's all on site. We used to have physical therapy at a remote site, or very good company, but we wanted them right there so that they truly are a partner with the doctor and all the others. You know, oftentimes you go in, for example, maybe you have high blood pressure, and then it's the medical doctor, you know, soon realizes that, you know, you may want to see one of our therapists because your stress level is just off the charts. And then that may lead to, well, if you see the dietitian and get, you know, better nutrition and so forth, because people know what to do, but you know, like weight loss, for example, but 95% of the people that lose weight gain it back. And it's not that they don't, you know, it's like, don't eat as much, right? And improve your diet, but that, you know, without any support, that just doesn't happen. And so we're really proud of the fact that we provide these supports, and so the success rate on any number of things is just much higher. Just makes sense that we're trying to prevent illness, whereas the rest of the country is treating sick people, and we're trying to keep them from sick. But they're also paid on treating sick people, so the whole system. I could go on and on, and I have, but but it's a really important issue.
Thank you.
I like being on the end because all my questions get answered before you get to me versus being called first. But no, don't apologize. But I just want to say in particular, really impressed by the physical therapy on-site and unlimited. As someone who just had her insurance company cut me off, even when my physician said I still needed additional physical therapy for my back, they were like, oh, sorry about your luck. We won't pay for it. So that's just huge because it really is helpful. And just to have somebody guide you in all of these areas of health and wellness, I think is huge. And you feel like you're not alone, and it's a community. So appreciate your efforts so much.
Yeah, thank you for this. This was great. I kind of on the same page as Roger with, I really believe moving towards that prevention and early detection early intervention for diseases is key, and it's so great that we have this for our employees. And thank you.
And I just wanted to add, as you heard tonight, this is a model for our country, a model for our nation, our wellness center that we have. And I just want to, although Dr. Herrera and I have been able to benefit in our roles, this is all based upon Mr. McMichael's vision that he had when he started this. And that goes back to the wellness center, everything we talked about, EduCare. EduCare keeps teachers in our classrooms and provides the child care at a very affordable rate for our teachers to be able to do what they love to do and get quality care for their own children. And so without this vision of Mr. McMichael's, we wouldn't be here today. And hopefully someday we can see the Roger McMichael Wellness Center at Carmel Clay Schools. And so his vision's pretty phenomenal on what we have, but it's investing in our employees so they can take care of themselves as they take care of our kids. So Roger, thank you for your vision. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Herrera. That was a great report.
Thank you.
Well, next we get to hear from Mr. McMichael again, his monthly financial update.
I want to note how quickly I got this pulled up. So
No, it's already up. I know, it's fast.
I'm feeling pretty good. Okay, so the financial report is directly tied to our strategic goals for budget transparency and stewardship. In terms of performance measures, we want the budgets to align with the strategic goals and the referendum transparency, and it is the monthly reporting. In terms of key initiatives, we want to uphold we think it supports upholding the fiscal responsibility as well as transparent operations for the community. So with that, I'll start with the education operating and rainy day fund. You can see that for October, we ended with a balance of just over 13 million. That compares favorably to last year. It was about 12, so it's about 800,000 higher than last year. And it should be a little higher because as we're looking at a percentage, as the budget goes up, the balance needs to go, the dollars need to go up as well. And I'm going to pause for a second because Mr. Shapiro had a couple of questions that maybe I can answer as we go along here rather than going back. So,
can you just percentage year-to-date, percentage remaining? I know this is not an exact science.
Yes.
Right, because as we spoke about earlier in the meeting, we were talking about the resolution on additional appropriation. Budgets are planned well in advance, and it's the best guesstimate that we can do. So can you just help explain and alleviate any concern about when it says how much, there's only 15% remaining, and are we going to be okay?
Yes, and that's exactly, I thought that was your question, underlying your question, and so that's the reason. The 15% is not sufficient. That's why we need the additional appropriation. And so, but the math of it would look more like 16.5% or so. And our expenses aren't necessarily that even, but the 15 is representing not having sufficient appropriation. So
that was my underlying question.
Yeah, I thought,
and I knew it was tied to the additional appropriation.
Yeah,
but again, for people who aren't looking at this regularly,
yes,
it can be very confusing.
Yep.
And so, and I will admittedly say sometimes it's confusing for me, and some of it also is timing.
Yes.
I've worked with school budgets before, and I know that sometimes expenses don't line up exactly where you want them to, or you intend them to, and so you sometimes have to just roll with it. But I just wanted to make sure we clarified some of that specifically so that there was a clear understanding.
Yeah, and did you have I believe you may have had a question, I understood it at least, that it had to do with like interfund loans or transfers. So for example, that reports, this is not this month, but you'll recall that we transfer about $18 million from education fund to the operations fund. So that will show in the one report as expense, and then the corresponding number will be in the operation fund as revenue, as additional revenue. And so that is kind of what those represent. And then we'll do interfund loans, which let me go to the operations fund actually, and because here we have a negative balance, which is not unusual because of the money received twice a year. it'll get more so as we get closer to the end of the year until we start receiving property tax draws. But if you compare this, it's more than it was in '24, but the very reason is because in '24, there was an interfund loan because we don't want to end the year or June 30th in particular with a negative fund balance. So we do what's called an interfund loan. And so it might be borrowed in June, and in July it's paid right back. And so it goes, and then it starts the process all over. So the comparison there would be misleading if you didn't understand that in '24, they had a $4 million interfund loan, which of course brought the balance. It's still negative, but it was much less, and that all had to do with just kind of more or less the bookkeeping. And so that would explain the the operating fund, and you may see the same percentages because we have additional appropriation approved recently for, as you know, for that as well. And then the rainy day fund, there's very little activity here, but in comparison, you'll see that we have $7.5 million, and a year ago we had $4 million because we had transferred $3 million from the operations fund. And then likewise, the safety referendum, the cash balance is better, and it looks better, and it is better. We got pretty low on cash in this fund, and so this year it's coming back a bit, which is what we needed to see. And so we're pleased with that, and I think that may be it. So with that, I'll respond to questions if you have them. Thanks.
Wow, no questions. All right. Thank you, Mr. McMichael.
Thank you.
Our next report is the superintendent's report, so I'll turn it over to Dr. Ostrike.
Thank you again, President Coquet. Our Carmel High School marching Greyhounds wrapped up their season placing 3rd in the nation at Bands of America Grand Nationals. 500, by my research, 594 bands entered the Bands of America Marching Band competition at all of the regionals across the country, and 108 bands made Grand Nationals. Out of the 108 bands, only 12 made it to Grand National Finals, and Carmel placing 3rd. Carmel won the Outstanding Music Performance category and truly saved their best performance for last. This year, Carmel had 158 students who were either in their first year or second year of marching band experience out of the 260 marchers. And I liken that to a varsity basketball or football team. If they primarily have freshmen and sophomores, they're not finishing 3rd in the nation. And however, our marching band continues their excellence with the leadership of Mr. Chris Crakey and the entire team. Our marching band students at Carmel High School truly stepped up to the challenge. Moreover, there was a very special announcement during the awards ceremony, and Carmel High School was selected to march in the 2027 Rose Bowl Parade. So if they need any, if you're listening, Mr. Crakey, if you need any chaperones for that, please let me know. It truly was a special evening with an amazing group of students, teachers, parents, and we are all extremely proud of our Carmel High School marching Greyhounds. Additionally, if you have not yet gotten your ticket, we're going to stick with our performing arts theme tonight. Over 400 student performers will be a part of this year's Holiday Spectacular at Carmel High School from December 4th through December 7th. Performances will start at 7 p.m. on the 4th, 5th, and 6th, and there are also 2 performances that start at 2 p.m. on December 6th and 7th. Limited tickets, very limited tickets do remain for this extraordinary event, so head to carmelchoirs.org and get your tickets tonight. And finally, our bell ringer for the report tonight is Mr. Josh Southard, our music teacher at Smoky Row Elementary School, who recently received the Honorary Lifetime Membership Award for exemplary service at the 2025 National ORF Conference in Lexington, Kentucky. This is the organization's highest honor, and the award was presented to Mr. Southard in front of over 1,000 attendees. I was able to drive down to be a part of this special presentation, and to say that Josh is a big deal in the music world is an understatement. He is a rock star there. So not only is he beloved at Smoky Row Elementary School and here in Carmel, he is also regarded as one of the nation's top elementary music teachers, and utilizing that ORF methodology and approach. And so we are very proud of Josh. Not only does he share his musical teaching expertise across the country, a special something to note, Josh is also a Carmel bus driver and drives a bus for Carmel Clay Schools as well, and is part of our teacher program where we have a handful of teachers that not only teach during the day, but also drive a bus in the morning and afternoon. And Josh told me he was getting back this weekend because he had an event to drive a student group to this weekend that he got back from Lexington. So not only is he a rock star in the classroom, but on the bus and across the nation. So congratulations, Josh. We're very proud of you. And then finally, as we prepare to send our students off for Thanksgiving break, I'd like to pause and express my sincere appreciation to our entire Carmel Clay Schools community. I am truly grateful to all of our students and families, as well as the dedication of our teachers, administrators, and support staff who give so much of themselves to serve our nearly 16,000 learners every single day. So I was having a conversation with a couple board members, and we were talking about how education is a people business. It is complex, it is challenging, and it is profoundly meaningful. And it takes all of us here working together to help our students grow, thrive, and discover their potential in an ever-changing world, which is part of our mission. So I wish each of you a restful and joyful Thanksgiving break. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Oestreich. We have a couple announcements tonight. November 26th, which, believe it or not, it's Thanksgiving week. So November 26th, the schools are closed, but the offices are still open. November 27th and 28th, Thursday and Friday, all offices and schools for CCS are closed. Our next meeting is Monday, December 15th for our regular board meeting. December 19th is a Friday, yes, and it's a teacher workday, yes. Students are done on the 18th. Then December 22nd through January 2nd is the CCS winter break, and teachers return on January 5th. May I have a motion? Oh. That's for next year.
That's in 27, yeah. You're always welcome, Mr.
I will send out a reminder. Yes, I will send out a reminder. Our only board meeting in December is Monday, December 15th, here at 6 p.m. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Okay, meeting adjourned.